The desert sun burned the red sand as the crowd gathered near the great pit. It was called the Monster Pit, a deep hole in the earth where dangerous creatures lived. No one who went in ever came back. It was used by the High Council as a place of punishment. Thieves, rebels, and enemies of the Empire were thrown in without trial. The people watched in silence, knowing what was about to happen. At the edge of the pit stood a young alien girl. Her skin was light blue, her long dark hair tied back with a torn cloth. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her small hands were tied. With thick rope, she was no older than 16 in human years. Her name was Kayla, and she had lived quietly in the lower parts of the city. She never harmed anyone, never stole anything. But someone had accused her of taking sacred fruit from the temple garden. The punishment was death. A group of tall alien guards pushed her forward. They wore dark armor and followed the orders of the council without question. Behind them stood 3 elders of the High Council, their faces cold and proud. They showed no emotion, no pity. Kayla tried to speak. "Please, I didn't do it," she whispered. But her voice was weak, lost in the wind. No one listened, except one. Among the prisoners standing nearby was a human. His name was Ethan. He'd been captured during the last conflict between the humans and the Council's army. Unlike others, he had not fought back when taken. He had surrendered to protect a small alien village during the war. Because of that, he was marked a traitor by both sides. The Council hated him for helping the weak. The humans forgot about him. Ethan stood tall, his hands chained, his face dusty and sunburned. He had watched Kayla being dragged from her small cell the night before. He saw the fear in her eyes, and something in his chest tightened. He didn't know her, but she reminded him of his little sister back on Earthkind. Soft, innocent. The crowd began to chant, some out of fear, others just following orders. The head elder raised his hand for stealing from the sacred garden. He said loudly, "This child will face the justice of the pit." The guards untied Kayla's hands and grabbed her by the arms. They dragged her to the edge. The pit was wide, dark, and deep. Strange sounds came from below. Growls, hisses, movement. Monsters waited down there. Hidden in the shadows, Kae struggled. "No, please," she cried. "I didn't do anything." Ethan stepped forward without thinking. "Stop," he shouted. Everyone turned. Even the guards paused. The elder looked down at the human. "Speak again, and your sentence will double." Ethan's eyes locked on Kayla. "She's innocent," he said. "You know it. She's just a girl." "Silence, human," one guard snapped. Striking him across the face with a metal rod, blood ran down Ethan's cheek, but he didn't move. The elder gave the signal. The guards pushed Kayla forward, and then it happened. Ethan broke free. No one saw how he did it. Maybe the chain was loose. Maybe he was stronger than they thought. He ran toward the edge of the pit as Kayla's feet slipped. Over the side, and he jumped. Gasps filled the air. The crowd screamed. The guards ran to the edge, looking down in shock. Kayla had been falling, her eyes full of terror, when strong arms wrapped around her. The wind rushed past them. They hit the side of the pit, bounced off rock, and tumbled down into the darkness. Ethan twisted his body to protect her from the fall. They hit the ground. Hard dust rose all around them. It was quiet for a moment. Then Kayla coughed and opened her eyes. She was alive. Her body ached, but she could move. Ethan groaned beside her. His back was bleeding, his shirt torn. He had taken the worst of the fall. Kayla sat up. "Why? Why did you do that?" she asked. Ethan looked at her and smiled weakly. "Because no one else would." Above them, the pit's opening was just a small circle of light now. Too far to climb. The sounds of the crowd faded. The council wouldn't come after them. They were meant to die down here. Kala helped Ethan sit up. Around them, strange rocks glowed faintly. There were bones, broken armor, old weapons, signs of others who had been thrown in before, and deep growls echoed from the shadows. "They're coming," Ethan said quietly. Kayla nodded, fear rising again. "What do we do?" Ethan stood slowly, holding his side. "We fight. We survive." Kayla looked at the human beside her. He had jumped into death to save her, even though they were strangers. Even though no one else cared, something had changed. The pit was not the end. It was only the beginning. The air inside the pit was heavy and cold. Strange smells filled the space dust, decay, and something worse. Kayla helped Ethan walk, her small arm under his, as he limped forward. They didn't speak much. Both were tired and sore from the fall. Their hands brushed against broken bones and old metal pieces as they moved carefully between rocks. Behind them, growls echoed again, soft at first, then louder, closer. Kayla looked over her shoulder. "They're coming," she whispered to Ethan. Nodded. "We need to find shelter." They moved as fast as they could. Shadows moved along the walls, some crawling, some slithering. Glowing eyes peeked out from cracks, but nothing attacked yet. The creature seemed to be watching, waiting. Finally, they found a broken stone arch that led to a narrow cave. It was dark and tight, but inside it felt safer. Ethan collapsed near the wall, breathing hard. Kayla sat beside him and looked at his back. His shirt was torn, and deep cuts ran down his skin. "You're hurt," she said softly. "I'll live." Ethan replied, but his voice was weak. Kayla pulled a piece of cloth from her dress and tore it into strips. She dipped them in the small pool of water near the cave's entrance and cleaned his wounds gently. Ethan winced but didn't stop her. "Thank you," he said. "I should be the one thanking you," she replied. "You saved me."
Oh.
"Ever done that?" He smiled a little. "You didn't deserve to die." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the monsters outside. The growls never stopped, but the creatures didn't come in. Maybe they feared the narrow cave. Maybe they wanted to wait until their prey gave up. Kayla looked at Ethan. "Why did you help me?" Ethan leaned back and closed his eyes. "'Cause I've seen too many good people hurt for no reason. On my planet during war, I saw things. I didn't want to be part of it anymore. When I saw you, I just acted." Kayla lowered her head. "I was just trying to feed a sick elder in my district. I didn't know the fruit was sacred." Ethan looked at her with kind eyes. "You did the right thing. They did not." Time passed slowly. The cave was cold, but they stayed close for warmth. Kayla told Ethan about her childhood, her life in the lower city, her dreams of becoming a healer. Ethan told her stories of earth trees with green leaves, rain that smelled fresh, and oceans that went on forever. "Your world sounds beautiful," Kayla said. "So does yours," Ethan replied. "I think the people at the top just ruined it." A strange sound made them both look up. Rocks fell from the ceiling. Something large had passed nearby. "We can't stay here forever," Ethan said. "We need to find a way out." Kayla nodded. "But how?" "No one climbs out of the pit." "Maybe," Ethan said, "but maybe no one tried hard enough." The next day, they explored deeper into the pit. The monsters didn't attack, but their presence was always near. Sometimes Kayla would hear a sharp screech in the distance. Other times, Ethan would stop walking, his body tense. Sensing something watching them, they found a tunnel leading downward. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, old and faded. Kayla touched them carefully. "These are from the first age," she said. "This place is older than the city above." "Maybe it leads somewhere," Ethan said. "Or maybe someone used it to escape long ago." The tunnel led them to a larger chamber filled with glowing crystals. The light helped them see more clearly. They noticed bones of strange beasts and weapons, left behind by others. Some were broken, others still sharp. Ethan picked up a metal spear. It was heavy, but he could use it. Kayla found a short knife with a curved blade. She wasn't a fighter, but she would try. They took what they could and moved forward. The tunnel twisted and narrowed. At one point they had to crawl. The air grew colder, but the path kept going. Then they heard it. A loud roar, not just a growl. This was different, deeper, stronger. Kayla's eyes widened. "That's not like the others." Ethan tightened his grip on the spear. "It's bigger." They moved slowly. The tunnel opened into another chamber, this one darker, larger, and filled with bones, and in the center of it stood a massive creature. It had long arms, claws that scraped the ground, and a mouth filled with sharp teeth. Its eyes glowed red. The moment it saw them, it roared again. Ethan pushed Kayla behind a rock. "Stay down." Beast charged. Ethan ran to the side, yelling to draw its attention. The spear shook in his hands. The creature slammed its claw down, missing Ethan by inches. Rocks flew in all directions. Kayla screamed as the wall behind her cracked. She grabbed her knife and threw it. Tit bounced off the beast's thick hide. But it turned for just a moment. Ethan used that moment. He stabbed the spear deep into the beast's leg. It roared in pain and knocked him across the chamber. He hit the wall and fell to the ground, groaning. Kayla ran to him. "Get up. I'm fine," he said, coughing. "We need to blind it." Kayla looked around. The crystals from before, they were sharp, glowing. She grabbed one and rushed forward with all her strength. She jumped onto the beast's back and stabbed the crystal into its eye. The creature howled and stumbled. Ethan picked up another weapon. From the ground, a rusted sword. Done. Charged. Together, they fought the beast. Blow after blow. They bled, they cried, but they didn't stop. Finally, the creature fell. The ground shook as it collapsed. They stood there, shaking, covered in dust and bruises. Ethan looked at Kayla. "You were amazing." She smiled through her tears. Did it together. Behind the beast's body, a small tunnel was revealed. Fresh air flowed from it. "Maybe that's the way out," Kayla whispered. Ethan nodded. "Then let's go." The tunnel behind the fallen beast was narrow and damp. Cool air flowed through it, and for the first time since falling into the pit, Kayla and Ethan could breathe without choking on dust. Their bodies ached, their clothes were torn, but they had survived again. And now they had a small hope-hand opening, a way forward. Ethan led the way, holding a torch made from broken metal and a piece of burning crystal. Kayla walked close behind, her knife still clutched tightly in her hand. Though the beast was dead, the pit was still dangerous. They could not relax. "How deep do you think we are?" Kayla asked quietly. Ethan looked at the rock walls around. "Them deep enough that the council forgot this place even existed. Then maybe it can help us," Kayla said. "Maybe this tunnel was part of something old, something before the council." They walked for hours. Tunnel curved and twisted like a snake. Strange marks covered the walls. Kayla touched them gently. "These are from the builders," she said. "Ancient people who lived long before the current city. They knew things we'd forgotten, and maybe they left a way out," Ethan said. As they moved forward, the tunnel grew wider. Finally, it opened into a massive chamber. Kayla gasped. Giant. Stone pillars held up the roof. Broken statues lined the walls, figures of beings with wings, tall eyes, and long robes. In the center stood a tall structure made of metal and stone. A door sat in its side, half buried in rubble. Ethan stepped closer. "This looks like an elevator." Kayla tilted her head. "What's that?" "On Earth, it's a machine that moves people up and down tall buildings." "If it still works," Kayla said, "we could use it to escape." They cleared the rubble. Ethan found a metal panel and pressed it. Nothing happened. "No power," he said. "But maybe." He opened a side compartment and saw old wires and broken circuits. He worked slowly, using pieces of metal and old parts from his belt kit. Kayla watched quietly, helping when she could. After some time, lights flickered. "Yes," Ethan said, smiling. "If we're lucky, it has just enough energy left." They stepped inside. The elevator shook, then began to rise slowly. The noise was loud, but steady. Kayla's heart pounded. What if someone's waiting at the top? Then we'll deal with it together, Ethan said. "But we're not staying down here anymore." The elevator climbed for minutes. Finally, it stopped with a loud clang. The door opened to a dark hallway filled with dust and broken furniture. The air was dry and stale. They stepped out slowly. "This looks like an old station," Kayla said. "Abandoned," Ethan replied. "Maybe sealed long ago." They explored carefully. But in one room, they found old supplies, dried food, clean water, and even medical kits. Kayla helped clean Ethan's wounds. For the first time in days, they felt a little safer as they rested. Kayla looked at him. "Do you think anyone believes we're dead?" "Probably," Ethan said. "But that might work in our favor." Kayla leaned back. "We can't just run. If we escape, the council will still hurt others." Ethan nodded. "I've been thinking the same. They threw us in because we were easy targets. But if we get out and speak the truth, we can expose them. They'll try to silence us," Kayla said. "Then we'll speak louder," Ethan replied. The next morning, they found a door leading out of the station. It opened into a cave high above the monster pit. They could see the sky again, blue and bright, but below them was the city. Guards still walked the walls. Council still ruled. "Need help?" Ethan said. Kayla nodded. "There's someone I know, an elder named Saran. He believed in change. He helped the poor in secret. If he's still alive, he can help us. Then let's find him." They moved through the shadows, hiding from patrols. Kayla led them through back streets and tunnels under the city. She knew the hidden paths well. They avoided the busy areas and climbed up into the hills, where the elders once lived. After hours of careful travel, they reached an old stone house. Kayla knocked gently. A small window opened. An older alien man looked out. His eyes widened. "Kayla," he whispered. "They said you were gone." "They were wrong," she said. "Can we come in?" He opened the door and let them inside. The room was warm, filled with old books and maps. The elder stared at Ethan, but didn't question his presence. "You came back from the pit," Saren said. "How we survived," Kayla said. "Together." He told him everything. The fall, the monsters, the hidden tunnels, the old elevator. They explained how the council had lied and punished them without reason. Saren sat quietly for a long time, then he stood. "The people are restless," he said. "We've seen too many disappear. If they hear your story, truly hear it, they will rise." "But we'll need proof," Ethan said. "Then we give them proof," Saren replied. "And you two will lead it." Kayla looked at Ethan. "You ready?" "I was born ready," he said with a small grin. They didn't know what would happen next, but they knew this. The council had thrown them into the dark to silence them. Instead, they had returned with fire in their hearts and a truth that could not be buried. Real fight was about to begin. The city above the monster pit was still quiet under the rising sun. Most people were waking up, starting their day without knowing that two who were supposed to be dead were now planning something dangerous. Kayla and Ethan sat with Elder Saran, inside his hidden home, going over every detail of their next steps. Saren opened a drawer and pulled out an old device. It looked like a box made of glass and wires. "This is a recorder," he said. "It can store images and sounds. If you speak your story into this, the people will hear it." Kayla looked at it, unsure. "Will they believe me?" "You carry the truth," Saren said gently. "Your voice has power." Ethan nodded. "And we can show them what the council has done to others too, maybe even find proof they hid." Saren handed them the device. Kayla held it in her hands. She sat down, closed her eyes for a moment, began to speak. She spoke about the false blame, about being thrown into the pit, about the fear, the monsters, and the pain. She spoke about Ethan Howe, a human, once seen as an enemy, had jumped in to save her when no one else would. She spoke about the dark tunnels, the old secrets, and the council's cruelty. Ethan then took the recorder and told his story too, how he refused to follow cruel orders during war, how he had seen kindness in alien eyes, and how he believed in peace more than power. They finished recording, and Saren copied the message onto many small chips. "We'll pass them across the city," he said. "Even to the guards. Once they hear your voices, something will wake up inside them." But the council was not sleeping. News of a hidden movement had reached them through spies. The head elder, a tall and thin figure named Orvik, stood in the great chamber with the other council members. Kayla was seen. A guard reported, "She's alive." The room went silent. "Impossible," Orvik said. "She was thrown into the pit." And yet the guard said, "She and the human have returned." The council didn't speak for a moment. "Find them," Orvik ordered. and end this before the people lose fear. But fear had already begun to fade. Across the city, small groups of people gathered in secret. They listened to the recordings. They whispered to each other. They're alive, and the council. Lead. Even some guards started to question orders. One young soldier named Malin listened to the story and threw his badge into the river. I didn't join to hurt the weak, he said. I'm done being their tool. Inside Saren's house, Kayla and Ethan prepared to move again. They knew the council would strike soon. Kayla looked out the window. Can't keep hiding, she said. We need to stand in the open, Ethan agreed. We find the right place and speak directly to the people. Saren pointed to the old speech tower in the center of the city. It used to be a place for truth before the council took control. If you stand there, the whole city will hear you. Then that's where we'll go, Kayla said. Before they left, Saren handed Kayla a small silver pendant. This belonged to your mother, he said. She once stood for peace too. I believe you carry her strength. Kayla held it close to her heart. Thank you. The journey to the speech tower was not easy. They moved through narrow paths and tunnels. Some guards saw them but didn't stop them. Others even nodded quietly, choosing not to raise alarms. As they reached the tower, they saw crowds already gathering. The message had spread faster than they expected. People stood with hopeful eyes, waiting for something to believe in. Kayla stepped onto the high platform. Ethan stood beside her. She looked down at the people below, her hands shaking slightly. Then she took a deep breath and began to speak. I was thrown into the monster pit, she said, her voice strong. They said I was a thief, but I only tried to help someone in need. I was supposed to die, but I didn't, because someone jumped in to save me. The crowd was silent, hanging on her every word. The council wants to keep us afraid, she continued, but we're stronger together. I saw monsters in the pit, but none were as cruel as those who rule us now. Ethan stepped forward. I was once your enemy. I was a soldier from another world, but I saw truth in Kayla. I saw strength in the city, and I believe in its people. Cheers slowly began to rise. More people joined the crowd. Even guards from the outer walls started to gather. But the council arrived soon after, bringing soldiers in dark armor. They marched through the crowd, pushing people aside. The head elder shouted, "The speech is over. Arrest them both." Something had changed. The people did not move, one by one. The crowd stepped in front of Kayla and Ethan, forming a wall between them and the soldiers. Even some guards turned their weapons away from the council. No more silence. A woman shouted. We want truth, a man yelled. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure. Then Malin, the young soldier, walked to the front and raised his hand. I will not obey you anymore, he said to Orvik. You rule with fear, but fear is breaking. More guards joined him. Orvik's face twisted with anger. You will all regret this. Kayla stepped down from the tower and stood before him. No, she said calmly. You will. The crowd roared. The tower became a symbol of change that day. The council fled, hiding behind locked doors. The people took back their voice, and it all began because one human had jumped into a pit, not to fight, but to protect. The city was no longer silent. Word had spread like fire across every corner. People whispered the names of Kayla and Ethan like a song of hope. The old speech tower was now guarded not by soldiers of the council, but by the common people. The poor, the workers, and even a few brave elders stood watch. Protecting Kayla and Ethan, inside the tower's upper room, Kayla sat by the window, staring down at the growing crowd. More had gathered since the last speech. She could hear their chants, her name. Ethan's. The sound made her chest feel tight-knot with fear. But with a strange warmth, Ethan walked in holding a bowl of soup. You haven't eaten all day. Kayla looked at him and smiled faintly. I know, it just doesn't feel real. It is, he said, sitting beside her. You lit a spark. Now it's a fire. She took the soup and sipped it slowly. The council hasn't left yet. They're still hiding in the upper halls, still planning. Ethan nodded. and they won't give up power easily. Just then, Elder Saren entered with a scroll in his hand. His face was serious. They're calling it an emergency. They've gathered the remaining loyal guards and plan to make one last move tonight. Kayla stood. Against the people, as Saren said. They want to take back control through fear. It's just like before. Ethan placed the empty bowl aside. Then we can't wait anymore. We need to end this before they strike. Saren spread the scroll on the table, showed a map of the council chamber and the secret tunnels beneath it. These tunnels were used long ago by messengers, but they lead straight into the heart of the council's stronghold. How many people can we trust to go with us? Kayla asked. Saren looked at her. Not many, but enough. An hour later, a small group gathered in the dark. Ethan, Kayla, Elder Saren, Malin the young guard, and 6 others who had served the city in silence for years. They carried no flags, only torches, ropes, and courage. They entered the tunnels. Quietly, the air below the council building was thick and still. Only the sound of footsteps and dripping water echoed. Kayla's fingers brushed against the stone walls, tracing the same marks she had seen in the ancient ruins below the pit. These walls saw everything, she whispered, and they're watching now. After a long walk, they reached a narrow stair that climbed into a metal gate. Saren pressed a hidden switch. The gate opened with a soft creak. Beyond it was the Grand Council. Chamber. Empty at first glance, but then footsteps echoed. Dozens of soldiers waited inside. They stood ready, armored, weapons drawn. At the center stood Orvik, the head elder, his face sharp and full of fury. You should have stayed in the pit, Orvik said coldly. Your return was a mistake. Ethan stepped forward. And yours was thinking we would stay silent. Orvik raised his hand. Seize them. Die. But the soldiers did not move. Malin stepped in front of Kayla and shouted, Who are you fighting for? These people? He pointed to Kayla and Ethan. Council that sends children to die in pits? The room was still. One by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. Orvik's face turned red with rage. Traitors, all of you. Kayla walked forward, her voice calm. You called me a thief, a liar, a danger. But it was you who stole from the people, who lied for power. And now, your time is over. Ethan pulled a small device from his coat. It was a speaker connected to the city's broadcast system. Elder Saren activated it, and Kayla's voice went out to every home, every street, every wall. People of the city, she said, we are in the council hall, and the council is finished. Cheers exploded across the city. Orvik tried to run, but the guards stopped him, fell to his knees, shaking. Kayla turned to the others. We don't need revenge. We need change. They placed the council members under guard and locked the chamber. For the first time in generations, the city was no longer ruled by fear. As dawn broke, Kayla stood at the top of the speech tower once more. Thousands had gathered. Some climbed roofs. Others stood in the streets, holding hands, weeping, smiling. She raised her hand. We were divided, she said. But now we are together. We were ruled by silence. Now we speak. We were pushed into darkness, but we climbed out, together. Ethan stood beside her, his arm around her shoulder. We're not enemies anymore, he said. We're something new.
Elder.
Saren stood behind them and nodded. The city is yours now. Guide it well. Kayla didn't want power. She didn't want gold or titles. But she promised one thing. The pit would be sealed forever. No more would innocent lives be thrown away. No more silence. No more shadows. From that day on, the story of the human and the alien girl who rose from the monster pit spread across planets. Not just a story of pain, but of courage, unity, and change. And it wasn't over yet. The city was alive with a new kind of energy. People were smiling, hugging, and singing in the streets. For the first time in many years, they were free. The High Council was no more. The monster pit had been sealed with stone and light. Shadows that once ruled the city were now gone. Kayla stood on the balcony of the speech tower, looking out at the crowd. Banners waved below, some with her name, others with pictures of the pit covered in chains. She could barely believe it. All happened. Ethan walked up behind her. "You should rest," he said softly. "You've done enough for now." Kayla turned to him and smiled. "I'm not tired yet. I want to see it all." Ethan leaned on the railing beside her. "We really did it." "No," Kayla said. "We didn't do it alone. The people did this. We just reminded them they had a voice." They stood there in silence for a moment, watching the children run through the streets. The market stalls reopening, the guards now standing not in fear but in peace. Inside the tower, a new council was forming. Not one made of power-hungry elders, but of healers, teachers, workers, and even former guards. Elder Saran had refused a leadership role, but agreed to guide them with wisdom. This time, he said, the city will be ruled by ruled by those who serve, not those who take. Kayla and Ethan were offered seats in the new council too, but both refused. Kayla wanted to return to healing. She had once dreamed of helping the sick, and now that dream was alive again. Ethan wanted to build. He spoke of creating safe houses and learning centers, places where humans and aliens could live together without fear or walls. "I've seen what hate builds," he said. "Now I want to build something better." Days turned into weeks. The wounds of the past did not vanish overnight, but they began to heal. Statues of the old council were removed. The monster pit was turned into a garden. The children who once feared the streets now played in them. And every evening, lanterns were lit in honor of those who had suffered in silence. One morning, Kayla walked through the old tunnels under the city. She had returned not out of fear, but out of memory. She paused by the place where she and Ethan had first entered after escaping the pit. She touched the stone and whispered, "Thank you." Behind her, Ethan appeared, carrying a small bag of tools. "You still talk to walls?" Kayla laughed. "Just the ones that saved my life." They sat together on a stone bench, the quiet surrounding them. "Do you ever think about that day?" Kayla asked. "Every day," Ethan said. "I didn't know why I jumped at first, but now I think I do." Kayla looked at him, curious, because something inside me knew that saving one person was worth everything, even if it ended me. Kayla smiled softly. "You didn't just save me, helped. Save this city." Ethan leaned back, closing his eyes. "And you helped save me." They stayed like that for a while, resting in the silence of old stone and distant memories. Back in the city, something else was happening. Messengers from nearby towns had arrived. They had heard about the fall of the council, about the human and the alien girl, and about a city that chose hope over fear. Some came to ask for help. Others came to offer it, and so Kayla and Ethan found themselves leading again, but this time not as rebels, but as friends and guides. They traveled to nearby places, spoke to other people, shared their story, and listened to others. Together, they built connections, not walls. One day, while standing in a new town square, a child asked Kayla, "Were you scared when you fell into the monster pit?" Kayla knelt and smiled. "Yes, I was very scared." "But you survived," the child said. "Yes," Kayla nodded, "'cause someone jumped in to protect me." The child looked at Ethan and asked, "Are you the one who jumped?" Ethan scratched the back of his head. "I guess so. Why?" The child asked. Ethan smiled. "Because she didn't deserve to fall. No one does." And from that moment, the child wrote it down. Then others repeated it. And soon, it became a phrase spoken in many homes. No one deserves to fall. Years later, a tall statue was built. Near the old pit-turned garden, showed a human and an alien standing side by side, not as heroes, but as equals. A plaque at its base read, "They jumped into darkness and brought back light." Kayla and Ethan never claimed to be saviors. They didn't want thrones or titles. They wanted peace. They wanted a place where no child had to be afraid, where no voice was silenced, and where unity was more than just a word, and they had it. Not because of war, not because of weapons, but because, when the world turned its back, a human jumped into a pit to shield someone he didn't know, and everything changed.